Hello and welcome to a tropical update on Hurricane Irma as it makes its way towards the Florida Keys and then onwards to mainland Florida. I'm Adam McDoom for Cayman Hurricane Center. And the latest advisory on Hurricane Irma as of the 4 a.m. position update. Location 23.9 north, 81.4 west, or about 55 nautical miles southeast of Key West, Florida. Maximum sustained winds is 130 miles per hour, which makes it a Cat 4. Present movement is northwest at 6, minimum pressure 928 millibars. Here on your screen is the latest radar imagery from Key West. As you can see, approaching the area. Fairly tight core. As you can see, that eye wall strongest on the north side. System not so strong on the south side. Either way, the strongest part of this system will be on that northeast sector. So that is where you'll find the strongest of the conditions. Also look out the outer bands. Tornadoes and tornado watch warnings are already placed out, as in these outer bands here you could potentially see yourselves sort of tornadic activity, so look out for that. Here is the actual satellite imagery of the area. The eyes not looking as prevalent on satellite anymore as it did earlier, was suggestions of eye wall replacement cycle occurring earlier. It may have completed that, but it's sort of trying to struggle to recover from that cycle. The system is fairly large in size, already affecting Florida. After making landfall with Cuba, it's still affecting Cuba, and even here at Cayman Hurricane Center headquarters in Grand Cayman, we have been affected by this hurricane. Matter of fact, here at our stations here, have seen as much as tropical storm force 45 miles per hour. Pressures dropped down here at my HQ about 1,002 millibars, and the waves are fairly high, even as much as giving some minor storm surge issues here in Grand Cayman. As the system moves its way, continues northwest, some of these bands will continue into the area here, but over time those bands will lighten up, and overall the weather conditions to get better more or less from Monday onwards, but still getting quite a bit of that west wind coming in from the storm. So that was the conditions that we had here today, as Irma had its closest approach to my headquarters, and as it was passing through the island of Cuba. Just mentioning, after it came through the Bahamas, it weakened a little bit, and then as it came close and made landfall into Cuba, re-intensified to a Category 5, then went to Category 4, then weakened down to a Cat 3 before re-strengthening to a Category 4 hurricane. There, obviously, as this heads more and more towards Florida, the hurricane warnings are in place for pretty much all of Florida, still for the Bahamas and for parts of Cuba. tropical storm watches and hurricane warnings also issued for areas part of North Florida, Georgia, as well as South Carolina. It's possible that some of these conditions may spread across the East Coast and going through those areas, but more likely that the system will continue on that sort of westerly track and make its landfall on the west coast of Florida. So just running through to you here the general warnings. Storm surge warning in effect for South Santee River southwards to Jupiter Inlet, North Miami Beach southwards around the Florida Peninsula to Okoloni River, Miami, Florida Keys, Tampa Bay. Hurricane warning in effect for Fernando Beach southwards around Florida Peninsula to Indian Pass, Florida Keys, Lake Okeechobee, Florida Bay, Cuban province of Ciega de Alva, Sancta Spiritus, and Villa Clara, Matanzas, and La Habana, Andros Islands of Bimini and Grand Bahama. Hurricane watch in effect for north of Fernando Beach and Estito Beach. Tropical storm warning in effect for west of Indian Pass to the Oskaloosa Walton County line and north of Fernando Beach to South Santee River. So those are the present watches and warnings for tropical storm, hurricane, and storm surge for those areas. Besides IRMA, also just wanting to quickly mention, we do have two other areas of interest. We do have Hurricane Jose, which is another Category 4 hurricane out there in the Atlantic, and it is after passing just north of the islands. Luckily, those islands were spared from the worst of Jose. Jose will continue on a northwesterly track, eventually turning east, and then eventually turning southwards again. Maybe potential threats to the northern Greater Antilles, the Bahamas, again in the longer range. Again, plenty of time to watch to see exactly what that will do. But obviously IRMA being the main threat, and of course the new area of interest here that will end up probably developing into the next storm of the season. That'd be Lee, and that will likely track up into the northern Atlantic. Don't really see that affecting land much, and looking at the general forecast guidance for it, that whatever does develop will end up somewhat dissipating in that area. There's a few other systems that will be coming off of Africa too that will need to be watched. They do develop. Likely see them be named as Maria, Nate, and Ophelia. Again, plenty of time to watch for that, but the season is definitely progressing forward and quite quickly. Anyway, here is another look again at the satellite imagery, and as you have seen somewhere throughout this update here, we probably have some footage of the local scene here as IRMA had passed through the area. So this is it for me for now. I'll be back later today with a possible live streaming coverage as IRMA makes her way into mainland Florida. That's it for now. Catch you later.